Fionna and Cake are getting their own spin-off series. And, oh wait, I cut off the most important part of this promo art. Simon Petrikov! I'm a bit late on reporting this news, but on Tuesday, I believe, they announced that Fionna and Cake are getting their own series on HBO Max. So when they said the fun will never end, they were sort of right. And I'm only the 80,000th person to say that joke. But anyways, this is some very surprising news, although it was sort of leaked to an extent. I think a few weeks ago, people saw that HBO Max filed a trademark for Fionna and Cake, and everybody kind of just assumed that was like for merchandise reasons. Like, it was probably unlikely to mean a spin-off, but here we are. There's a spin-off. I guess at some point too, some industry person came out and said that this was in the works specifically, and also leaked info about something else that is pretty exciting news, but honestly, it's like so exciting that I wouldn't want to really talk about it here. But you can look forward to that other vague thing and be excited when it comes out. It's not Adventure Time related though, but I mean, come on, if you're a fan of the show, you probably heard about it already. Anyways, all we have about this spin-off is just a very brief description about it, this promo art, and the showrunner, and that's basically it. There's just some executives from HBO Max and Cartoon Network being quoted saying like, Adventure Time is so groundbreaking, we're so happy to continue it, yada yada. It's just, you know, press stuff. And it's also lies, considering that they stopped advertising the entire show after season 6. But anyways, the meat here is that the Fionna and Cake spinoff will be a 10-episode series where Fionna and Cake and Simon Petrikov will embark on a multiverse-hopping adventure and journey of self-discovery. All the while, a powerful new antagonist determined to track them down and erase them from existence lurks in the shadows. And that's sort of all we know, but there's a lot that we could pull from there, and it's this description alone that really excites me about this series. It could have been so easy for them to just make this a gender-bent spin-off, and like, there's nothing connected to the lore of Adventure Time or anything. It's just Adventure Time, the show, but with Fionna and Cake going on adventures rather than Finn and Jake. But this series is going to serve as a continuation to the series plotline and be about Simon Petrikov. Easy to assume him going through the multiverse to look for Betty, because if you remember in the series finale, Betty merged with Golb and then, you know, became some sort of interdimensional entity of chaos. And it's potentially even her that's tracking down our characters here and trying to erase them from existence, because Golb's ability was erasing things from existence. So the specific mention of that is clearly hinting that it's possibly Golbetty, as I don't know if that's the official name or what just fans call it, but there's a lot of potential that Golbetty is the antagonist here, or is at least what the cast is searching for. So there's still the possibility that this series is going to follow them sticking to Fionna and Cake's dimension, but I kind of doubt that, because like they wouldn't say embark on a multiverse hopping adventure, and they wouldn't talk about being tracked down by a villain that's lurking in the shadows if it wasn't going to take almost like an Infinity Train style direction where just Simon, Fionna, and Cake are going to be working together, and they're going to be going through like Rick and Morty portals and going to bizarre different worlds and solving problems there, and then going over to the next and gradually developing some sort of mystery and stuff. So I really do think that that's the direction it's going to take, but we can't know for sure until we have more info. But from this 2-sentence description we have, I think that's what this is going to be, and that's what really excites me, because like Adventure Time's multiverse lore is one of the most fascinating aspects of it, and it was never really explored. You know, it's like what made it so interesting is the fact that it was so vague. Like, we see Prismo, we hear the Lich talking about trying to destroy every multiverse, but our characters never went into one, aside from when Finn wished for the Lich to never exist. But even that, like, was that even that was like a multiverse thing that Finn himself created by wishing for it in a way. So I'm really curious to see where we're gonna go in this series. And of course, if you're looking forward to this series, you should definitely subscribe to my channel, because I'm always covering Adventure Time related things. And I thought Distant Lands Wizard City was going to be the end, but I guess not. So if you want to hear more about the series as it comes out and get all sorts of news and reviews about it, be sure to subscribe. Distant Lands Wizard City is coming out pretty soon, and I'll have plenty of content about that once it releases, so please stay tuned. The other very important part of this show that maybe I should have even mentioned first is that we only know one person involved in this series, spin-off series so far, and that person is Adam Muto, who was the showrunner and executive producer of the original series. He became the showrunner, I believe, in season 5 after Penn Ward stepped down. So season 5 and on, Adventure Time was Adam Muto's show, and even Distant Lands was covered by him too. So you know, us and the fan base are a little concerned that maybe he doesn't really want to be involved anymore. Maybe he's only hopping on this series because he doesn't want somebody else to take it over and like make it bad, which, you know, is possible. But the fact that we get this description about this being a multiverse hopping adventure, I do really think that he saw some awesome potential in this idea, even if it is clearly more of a marketing thing, because it's like, you know, if you just hear that Fionna and Cake spinoff on HBO Max, you know, you're like, that's no different than making like Total Dramarama. You know, it just sounds like a stupid spinoff idea to make the show last longer. But Adam Muto hopped on, or maybe he's even the one who pitched it. Probably not, but you know, he hopped on to this idea and said, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna make it be about Simon Petrikov and continue the show's lore, but while also having Fionna and Cake in it, because that will be the selling point to people who aren't diehard fans. And I think, you know, I really trust him, because again, he made like half of the show essentially with all the other crew. Though other than him at the moment, we don't know who else is going to be working on the series. That's like writers and board artists and all that stuff. But it seems really likely that he would gather people from Distant Lands if he can. I know this promo art was done up by some people that worked on the original series and Distant Lands. So I'm sure even more familiar faces from the development of the series will join in on this. Because it's clear that this series is definitely in early development, considering all we have is this screenshot here, and the fact that Wizard City is probably still like in post-production. But it's a fantastic sign that Cartoon Network still see all this potential in Adventure Time to keep giving us more. You know, Distant Lands must have done some good numbers, even though maybe it didn't seem like it from social media and stuff. I'm sure number-wise to HBO subscribers, people were watching that series, whether or not they watched the entirety of the show, you know? So it's clear that there was definitely some success with that, and that makes me really happy. This announcement was posted on Cartoon Network's job recruiting pages, so I'm pretty certain that there's not really a set team for this yet. Like, there's probably nothing more than like a pitch Bible. I guess the other very important thing about this series to think about is the fact that it's going to have, as of now, just one season of 10 episodes, but each episode is going to be a half-hour long, which we've never had from Adventure Time, because Adventure Time always had 11-minute episodes. Even when there were 2-part episodes, they would still develop it as if it was 2 11-minute episodes and like have completely different crews of creative people to do each part, which is kind of an awesome thing about Adventure Time. But it wasn't until the finale episode and Distant Lands that they sort of stopped that very obvious format of like putting a new title card between things, and they still had different creative teams do chunks of episodes, but we've never had 10 half-hour episodes in a row. I think even in the entire run of Adventure Time, there's probably not even 10 2-part episodes. So this is really interesting, because it's like you have to think, what could happen for a half-hour of Fionna and Cake? Because something that's so strong about Adventure Time to me is the fact that they were able to do so much insane storytelling within 11 minutes, and it only very rarely felt like rushed out. So having a half-hour for 10 Fionna and Cake episodes, you know, you just really have to wonder like what's gonna go on. Like I said before, my assumption right now is that each episode will be in a new world, so it's like they'll have a lot of time to flesh out the weirdo alternate worlds we're gonna end up seeing here. But what do you guys think about that? It's hard to say if I would prefer it to be 11 minutes or not, because it's like, I wouldn't, you know, obviously I would want more longer episodes. It's just, we have to wonder, like, why are they this long? What are they gonna do format wise to make this really engaging? But yeah, that's basically the big announcement. I never would have expected this at all. Literally, I was busy at work the day that this was announced, and I was seeing like Discord notifications from my friends saying they were like vaguely disappointed, and I was like, you know, I got home and I looked at all that, and none of them said explicitly what they were talking about. So I was like, oh, I guess a Wizard City trailer came out and it might look a little bad. So I went on to Twitter to like find the trailer, and then I see this, a new Adventure Time series announcement with my favorite character being significant to it. So I was blown away. There's a lot of apprehension going into this because people, again, think that it's such a weird idea. I mean, it's such a weird idea thinking about the fact that Fionna and Cake have not been relevant since 2011, basically. Like, I don't have much memory of the Bad Little Boy episode that had Marshall Lee, but I guess people really love that one. But it's like after that is when Adventure Time's popularity diminished a bit, and like they still covered Fionna and Cake, but nobody really cared that much at all, the way that they really cared in 2011, 2013, or whenever the Bad Little Boy episode came out too. So it's just so weird for HBO to even want this, but it's so fantastic that they did want it, which means that there's some merit to Adventure Time still. And not only did they want it, but the original crew is going to come back in helmet, and that's really amazing. You know, and we have to, like I said, we ask ourselves, like, did the crew want to make this though? And it's like, probably not. But they would rather make it themselves than have a bunch of people that only vaguely know Adventure Time turn it and, you know, just take Adventure Time and turn it into a show for little kids. I guess somewhere in here too, it talks about this series being aimed at young adults. And some people in the fan base have been thinking about that, thinking like, oh, they're gonna like start swearing and stuff. But I really don't think so at all. I think Adventure Time, like the original series, was aimed at young adults too. I don't really think they're gonna take any dramatic shifts in tone or anything here than compared to how the original series was. I feel like the original series was also young adult, and we're just all kind of misinterpreting that specification because we've never really heard it before. I did not think I would be talking about like a 7-paragraph article for 15 minutes, but here I am because it's Adventure Time, and that's what we do around here. Just the last thing I have written down here to talk about is the fact that, like, you know, what sort of lore can we end up seeing here? I imagine Prismo would play some sort of role eventually, like maybe he's what helps Simon get across the multiverse, because we don't even know that to begin with. Like, are we going to see how Simon ended up in the multiverse? It's not like the Enchiridion exists anymore, right? Didn't that get destroyed? So we gotta wonder, like, what their means of travel is going to be here. And also, another thing to wonder about is why Simon looks so old. Is that just like a slight retcon thing? Because in Distant Lands Obsidian, Simon shows up briefly, and he looks about the same as he did at the series finale. But clearly, Obsidian took place a handful of years after the series finale. So, like, why is Simon suddenly aged quite a bit? Is that just because they wanted to have a more unique design for him for the series, or is it because even this series is taking place quite a few years after Obsidian? I feel like taking place a bit after Obsidian is very likely. Although the way Distant Lands handled the timeline, it's not even like that's something that the crew wants to explicitly explore. They like the idea of keeping the timeline a bit vague. So I'm excited to see what sorts of timeline hints we'll be getting here in this. I mean, heck, maybe Simon, like, slowly being too old to live basically is gonna even be a plot point that ties into why he's looking for Betty or looking for whatever in the multiverse. Adventure Time's like kind of the first thing that I saw that had like multiverse lore, I think, but now, like, Rick and Morty, after Rick and Morty happened, like, every show's doing it, right? Like, it's very interesting trend because it's kind of a complicated concept if you're like not somebody who's into sci-fi, but it's pretty kick-ass that it's getting covered so much. And I'm, again, just so excited to see it covered again in Adventure Time. You know, they found a way to use Fionna and Cake as an excuse to cover this side of the lore for the show, which is just really smart. But also, you know, I'm sure Fionna and Cake will be a lot of fun themselves too. Like, I didn't like them. It's just like there's way more to the show to me than just that aspect of it. But I mean, to some people there isn't. Some people probably still are really into them and are excited to see them have a series, even all these years later, you know? But definitely, to me personally, it's the multiverse and Simon Petrikov aspect that really has me excited about this. If this was happening and it was just Fionna and Cake, I wouldn't say I'd be disappointed or like side-eyeing it or anything, but I definitely wouldn't be as excited as I am. But I wouldn't have any doubt, you know? I don't want to have any doubt until I see what they could come up with. And I think the only way that this could have been a failure is if it was just Fionna and Cake and no original crew members from the show were working on it. But not only is it Fionna and Cake plus original crew members of the show working on it, it's also tied to the series lore and a significant like addition to the series. Distant Lands Together Again was definitely a finale, and we just recorded a review of that together, and we were all tearing up, remembering, you know, how fantastic and meaningful the show was, and we're so sad to see it go. And then what, maybe like 3 weeks after we recorded that, the show's still going. So that's, I mean, it's just great. It's just great because the show has so much potential for things to do, and I'm glad that that we get to keep seeing it, and we get to see the same creative team be the ones to make it real. But yeah, wow, I talked about that for way too long. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments. Be sure to leave a like on this video so that more people end up seeing it. And be sure to subscribe because I'm absolutely going to cover a ton more Adventure Time stuff in the future, which, you know, unexpectedly, I will be covering more Adventure Time in the future, but I'm very happy to do so. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to know when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, and super special thanks to my Patreon supporters. Support me on Patreon and you'll be able to submit video topics, see exclusive behind the scenes content, and help me keep this channel going. Also follow me on Twitter and TikTok for special updates.